So we're continuing with lesson 10.2. We've reviewed that in order to work multi-step equations, I need to gather up my like terms. It's always a good idea to get rid of fractions, because nobody likes dealing with fractions if we don't have to. And sometimes that means having to get a common denominator in order to get rid of those fractions. Don't let real-life problems scare or confuse you. Again, just because you have to read a paragraph doesn't mean that you have to look at it and go, psh, I don't know how to do that. It's just a matter of breaking down the words and putting it into a problem that looks like this. The process for this every time: establish your variable, which simply means figure out what it is that you're looking for and figure out what variable, what letter is best to put there. Up here in in lesson 10.1, when we were trying to solve for his pay, we used P. We typically use X, depending on what kind of object you're searching for. You can use a letter that matches. You don't have to. So after we've established our variable, then we want to find the words that give us the clues as to how to solve it. So let's look at our problem. When Mr. and Mrs. Harris left for the mall, Mrs. Harris had twice as much money as Mr. Harris had. I'm sure there's quite a few jokes we can make about that, but let's keep moving. While shopping, Mrs. Harris spent $54 and Mr. Harris spent $25. Again, we can make some jokes about men and women and shopping. When they got home, they had a total of $46. So the question is how much did Mr. Harris have when he left home? So when you have these paragraphs like this, the first thing I want you to do is find the question. What is it looking for? What is the problem asking you to solve? Before you start plugging any numbers and writing them down, go find the question. And here's our question right here. How much did Mr. Harris have when he left home? So that's what's going to define our variable. In this particular case, we'll just use X. And X stands for what Mr. Harris had when he left home. What was his original amount? So now let's start breaking down the pieces of the puzzle. I like to put things in words so I can figure out what it is I'm trying to do. So I have what Mr. Harris had originally, which by the way is what I'm trying to find, plus what Mrs. Harris had originally, subtract what they spent, and that's going to equal what they had left. This is real life. This is what you do. You go to the mall with money, you spend money, and hopefully you have some left. We already defined that Mr. Harris's original amount was going to be X. And let's come back up here. Mrs. Harris had twice as much money as Mr. Harris had. So whatever amount Mr. Harris had, Mrs. Harris has twice that amount. So then they go shopping, and Mrs. Harris spends $54, so that's going to come out of their amount. And Mr. Harris is going to spend $25. Whoops. So here's what they went with the mall with. Here's what they spent. And it tells me when they got home, they had $46 left. So now look, I've got an equation just like I started with up at the top of this lesson. I need to gather up the like terms, gather up these like terms, do your orders of operation backwards, and solve for your X. Take time to finish that, and then start your assignment. Don't forget to finish this. Solve through this problem, and I want you to solve for what Mr. Harris had originally, and then start your assignment, which is evens 12 through 36 and evens 44 through 48.